I don't know if you just saw the news, but average U.S. household debt just hit $152,000. That's mortgages, cars, cards, student loans. But the national debt just hit $37 trillion. It's all going up. Ask yourself this: when the system hiccups, who bails you out? It's not the Fed, not the politicians, and that's why I own gold. Gold doesn't need a CEO, doesn't need missed earnings. It doesn't freeze your account on a Friday at $4.59. While they print, gold just sits there doing what it's done for thousands of years. Store value. If you're done playing musical chairs with your savings, get something real in your hand. That's why you should try our good friends Kirk Elliott Precious Metals today. Goldwithjustin.com. Kirk and the team going to walk you through what they're doing, whether you're a seasoned pro when it comes to buying precious metals or you're just getting started. Call Kirk and the team today at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, or go to goldwithjustin.com to find out how they can help you today. No pressure, just facts and a plan. That's goldwithjustin.com. Protect what's yours with gold. Goldwithjustin.com. Do it today. When the grocery shelves go empty, you're out of time. That's the truth. Disasters hit fast. Storms, blackouts, supply chain chaos, and the first thing to vanish is food. That's why smart Americans, just like you, are stocking up now with My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithjustin.com right now to get a 3-month emergency food.
News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM. Live from high atop Monroe Center in downtown Grand Rapids, we're talking about what matters most to you in West Michigan. Join the conversation now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on Wood Radio.
Welcome, and a gorgeous day so far. The sun is shining and a little warmer today. We'll take it. Got the short sleeves on. Haven't broken down to the shorts just yet. But I feel like that day is coming. We got some days ahead in the forecast that are certainly heating up. Speaking of heating up, we got the latest stories you won't hear anywhere else. We've got some straight talk. Is it open? Is it closed? What about that ceasefire, on or off? And how does that affect you at the pump? And more, we'll get into it all. Coming up.
News, weather, and traffic. And the biggest stories of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now, today's Big Three.
Yes, like we said, the stories that you won't hear anywhere else. We'll be talking about around the water cooler, the dinner table, no matter where you are. Heartland Home Mortgage. Dave Galloway and the team ready to help you like they've helped us. Well, they've helped us buy, refinance a home equity line of credit. We've saved thousands every time we work with Dave and the crew. They're faster. They're better than the big banks. Reach out today and see how they can help you.
Number one.
HHMlending.com. And the president saying all U.S. ships and aircraft, military personnel, additional ammunition, weaponry, anything else that's appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. By the way, more on this statement. That brings that question, what do you mean, real agreements? Some fake agreements out there? Yes, in fact, there are fake agreements out there. That would explain a lot of what we're hearing and a lot of why the news continues to report. Iran, the parliamentary speaker, saying that the U.S. has violated the ceasefire agreement. Well, were they working with him or they're negotiating with someone else? And that says a lot in itself. We'll get into that as far as the straits open, close, and what does it all mean as strikes continue, particularly between Iran and Israel and Lebanon as well. So the story continuing to develop. A deranged homeless man who fatally stabbed that 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee. If you remember the story about Irina, never forget. Irina Zarutska stabbed on that train. And it seems like we have. For whatever reason, it seems like folks have completely forgotten this story. And it is such a horrific story. He will not, apparently it sounds like right now, will not have to really answer for it because they have ruled that he is incompetent to stand trial. Charlotte, it happened on that light rail train last August. DeCarlos Brown Jr. evaluated, state psychiatric hospital found incapable to proceed. Why didn't they do that previously? Why didn't they take a look at his statement and of who he was and how many times he'd been arrested and let off the hook by judges and everybody else, and really the governor now running for Senate there in that state? He faces separate federal charges. By the way, I don't necessarily know that he's going to get off. Justice for Irina is the chant that folks are saying today. I don't know the feds are going to allow it. The death penalty rides with that one. Yes, but wait, there's more. In fact, the news never stops. The latest story out of the Bahamas includes a Michigan man who's been arrested, telling authorities his wife fell overboard while on a dinghy in rough waters of the Bahamas. You've probably been hearing this story over the last day or so. It's a 50-50 chance. They got a 50-50 chance of getting it right every now and then. So there we have it.
Call Justin now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
And we continue as we march to the general and a primary in August, and then finally in November, as this big election year is upon us, 2026. We'll talk with one of the folks who is going to be running Michigan State in the Supreme Court. Coming up, another big one. Look, I'm telling you, yes, it matters what happens in Lansing and D.C., but also what happens in your own backyard as well matters. And this race, this election year matters more than ever as we pay attention to some of the major things that are happening right here in our own backyard. I've noticed data centers continue to really be I was in Lowell yesterday and last week for some things. Had lunch there yesterday at a great place, little bakery and cafe there on Main Street. And those signs, those no data center signs are everywhere. I don't know if there's like a bigger small town sort of story right now, fight that's happening, and that's happening across the country, and across the state as well. But it's a big one. So that'll be something that we'll continue to ask, obviously, as those folks step into the spotlight, and we have these different folks that are running for office, candidates on. We'll have some of that conversation as we continue. I know it's important if you've got one of these proposed for your backyard, or even if you've done a little research and study on it, said, I just don't know how I feel about some of this stuff. I understand you'll have a chance to have your voice heard as well. If you want to do that on the iHeartRadio app today, go ahead and click that microphone button next to the play button, and you can sound off. All right, back to the president's statement. Again, just to clear things up with Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, and whether the ceasefire is on or off. You got a couple of things here. CNN got caught red-handed the other day, and they were putting out fake statements that weren't real, fake 10-point plans. And the other thing is they're also putting out statements from people we don't know who Trump is negotiating with. And this is one of the most interesting pieces that we're watching play a part. There's been some thought on this, and I'll walk through what some of the ideas are. But Trump has said, look, we're going to keep everything in place, all of our equipment, until we reach a final agreement and it's fully complied with. If for any reason, he says, it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting starts, he says, quote unquote. Bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. All right, so we're back to the strong language again. Can you imagine? Of course we are. It was agreed a long time ago, and despite all the fake rhetoric to the contrary, no nuclear weapons in the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. In the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward, actually, to it and its next conquest, he says. America, all caps here, America is back. So, this will help give you a little bit of context of what's going on. So yesterday, we celebrated, obviously heard the ceasefire the day before. Yesterday was a day when the cloudy waters again got a little more murky because you sort of had more people coming out and making statements. And CNN, again, busted running this fake 10-point plan that supposedly Iran had put forward. We don't know exactly what's in that. We don't know what the United States, other than what we've seen put out, has discussed with these people. And some of this, again, there are people you have to realize that are trying. They're trying to stop this negotiation from taking place in good faith because they don't want peace to happen. Now, imagine that. These are the people, you have to understand who we're dealing with. They're the people that just the other day were saying, Trump is a madman. He's got to be removed from office. 25th Amendment. Crazy as a fox, this guy. Get him out of office. Then, hours later, after the ceasefire was announced, they're the same ones saying, well, he's a chicken. He chickened out. I can't believe it. Well, which one is it? You can't have it both ways. And they will never admit they were wrong. Now, again, there's a lot that has to happen between now and how this all plays out. And in the meantime, there's a lot of question. And there's a lot of, again, these are theories, thoughts on what's really going on. And I've heard everything from Trump actually wants the Strait of Hormuz to be disrupted. He wants, because it makes our oil more valuable. That could be, but I don't think, because in the short term, it makes your gas go up. And I think essentially he's got a midterm to run and win here. And with the rest of these folks who are out there, I don't think he wants to lose that midterm. I think you're going to see those prices go down eventually. Right now, where are they? Good question. Oil prices and the markets today, we had this massive jump yesterday. And the big news in the story yesterday was what the markets did yesterday. Futures are slipping. We're down about 200 points. The Dow futures, we'll see what they do eventually. But the oil prices are up a tick. Not fully, but it's if you look at this, it's almost like the market's trying to figure out exactly what is going to happen and what's going to happen. If anybody tells you, and with any sort of certainty, that this is it, yeah, just realize they don't know. And they may not even know that they don't know. But people have thoughts on this. They have ideas. They have theories. They have their own. And they may be really passionate and excited about it. But we don't know what's going to happen until it does. All I can do is just tell you, here's what's happened. Here's what we know as of now. And again, Is anybody else telling you like it's going to be a nuclear Armageddon like they were the other day? Or, kumbaya. Well, it's all sunshine and rainbows and puppy kisses and pie in the sky, all that. I think that's equally just not accurate. We just don't know. And it's going to take a lot to make this work. It's going to take a lot to make this happen. So that being said, those are the pieces of this. Anyway, I think the truth of the matter on these stories. Now, again, as I mentioned, all of this could change. It could change in a heartbeat. It could change with one mean tweet. It could change with one strike. At the end of the day, I think, and I've seen reports and I've looked, there's actually there's a website you can go to track the movement of ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so there is a website that shows it and in real time. Okay, so I actually did this yesterday, and I will tell you, it is fascinating to watch. Couple of different websites. I just gave you a few. MarineVesselTraffic.com, ShipTraffic.net. Anyway, if you go, just Google this, you'll find it. If you go, you can actually see where the ships are in real time. Now, I'll just say this. It looks like we've got some out there in the strait right now. I don't know who these are. If you click on them, you can find out, you get a little bit more information. People are doing a little more digging on this. But it looks like most of them are kind of clustered in areas and they're not quite moving through. But again, this is something you did not look yesterday as I was doing this. But don't just take my word for it, by the way. Don't just take CNN's word for it. You can say, is the strait open or not? Go look for yourself. Go see this. You could tell for yourself what's really going on here. All right. As for the idea that this whole thing is off, the ceasefire is off because Israel is firing on Hezbollah in Lebanon, according to Trump, that was never part of the deal. Yeah, I think Israel is going to have to make a different deal. If they want to close the strait because of Israel and what they're doing in Lebanon, I think they're going to face some repercussions they might not be ready for. Trump's not negotiating on that, and I think that'll be, I at least from what he said, we will. I think we'll see some strong response to that. Vice President J.D. Vance restating that if Iran does not follow through on promises to reopen the strait, the ceasefire will end. All right. I think we've given that all we got. Now, if there is anything else, if there's anything I've left out, matter of fact, if you can think of folks in the chat, and if you're watching behind the scenes live stream, we do this at Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, Getter, Locals, YouTube, all over the place. And then you can even shoot me that talk back over on the iHeartRadio app. Or 616-774-2424. Anything I've left out or any question you might have about that, throw it my way. We will we'll try and make sure we get them all answered for you. Coming up right after this, it's West Michigan Live. Justin Barkley, back next.
Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM and on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Thursday, April 9th. I'm Robin Hoffman. It's a Midwesterner.news original story. He's back in the news. Michigan Senate candidate Democrat Abdul El Sayed doubling down on defending Hassan Piker, who has made many anti-Semitic comments. The two spending time this week rallying progressives at Michigan State University and at the University of Michigan. In other news, Michigan gubernatorial candidate Republican Perry Johnson is already looking ahead to the general election with an announcement exclusively shared with the Midwesterner. Johnson, who's rapidly caught up with frontrunner John James, is reserving $4.7 million in media in the 3 weeks following the August primary. Johnson saying, "Our campaign will work hard every day to hold Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and the Democrats accountable." For these stories and more, visit the Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
Access to affordable credit.
All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Let's say good morning to folks over in the VIP and locals today. It's just $9 a month to join. If you want to help support what we're doing here, you can. You could join for a whole year. You get access to all the cool stuff we give you. The locals first, the locals exclusives, all of that good stuff. Ask questions when we do interviews with folks, particularly behind the scenes live stream. And also, you get great deals, discounts on stuff inside the store as well. And I always forget to mention that. But if you join for a whole year and you support us for a year, you get a month free and you get a copy of my book, Good News, Hope, and Encouragement for Trying Times. Patriot Dean's a lifer. Good morning, Patriot Dean. Mando, Mark, Cook, Garden, so good to see you. Let's see who else. Gritter, good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you all this morning inside the locals VIP. Beasley, good to see you over on Rumble. Such a time as this. D1P, Gary, good to see you as well. SJ, such a time. Did I say that? I did. Julianne. On the book this morning, Patricia, Tammy, Charlene, Mary, Lori, Mr. Bill over on the tube. Thank you. Good morning, folks. Appreciate you too. I think I saw somebody else on the tube this morning as well. John, good to see you, my friend. Sally, good to see you. Sally, how are you? All right, folks, back on the air. Stand by. Moving fast and furious through the fastest hour in radio. Coming up, like I said, 2026 is going to be the biggest year. You're talking about putting Michigan back on the map. And some of these races you may not even think about. We're going to cover them all. In fact, coming up next, candidate for Michigan Supreme Court, the latest on a story that you definitely want to make sure that you are locked in on and fully aware. That's coming up right here. A little bit after the Bomb Hour News on West Michigan Live. In the meantime, look, if you've lived in your home for years and you're starting to wonder whether it still fits your life, I've got something that's just for you. You know, my parents are going through this right now. And, you know, my dad's had some memory issues. There's some things happening. They're aging. And it's a time to really think about specifically these, you know, my mom and dad lived in the same home for years. And, I mean, decades. Like, even since before I was alive. I mean, longer than 50 years. That's a very rare thing. Maybe you're in the same boat and you're thinking about maybe it's time to downsize or look at a condo, maintenance-free living, assisted living. Whatever it is, you need something that's going to fit who you are and where you are in this season of your life. Well, I got something that's just for you. Kevin Yoder, our good friend, Yoder Real Estate, and the team at LPT Realty doing a seminar free for you, April 22nd at the Kentwood Library for free educational purposes day for folks who want to know more about downsizing so that you get the most out of your home when you go to make these moves. It's so important because it really does mean that you'll have the best of the best in those later years in your life. Smoothmoveseminar.com is where you can get registered. The seating is limited. Smoothmoveseminar.com. Log on today and see how Kevin can help get you started and find out more. The folks at Senior Smooth Move getting that done. Smoothmoveseminar.com. Back next. Alrighty then. I don't trust Iran either, to be honest with you. I honestly don't trust. I'll be completely clear. I don't trust anyone. In God we trust. All others pay cash. Who was it? That Gene Shepard said that. Gene Shepard is the guy that wrote the Christmas Story. And he was like an old radio guy back in the classic days of radio. And Gene, prolific author. So not only did he write that movie that you see every Christmas time that plays over and over every 24 hours, but he did a bunch of other things. So he said it like that. Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. And trust in the Lord. Everybody else, if that's true. But Iran particularly, I trust that I can't trust him. How about that? I'll put it like that. How about U.S. Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed saying F ICE the other day at his rally with Hassan Piker? How about that? Of course. So that's who you want. Democrats running for senator here in Michigan. They are all, don't get it twisted. They're all radical and extreme in their own ways. Abdul is just the latest and maybe the most obvious in this case. Who's the other one? McMurrow is running, and I think there's Haley Stevens. Okay, so you got all three. All right, markets just opening, down 200 stock futures. They said slip. Well, I should have the headline that the stocks have slipped down 200 Dow futures. But again, this is what you're going to see. And then their oil price rise nearly 100 after Iran accuses U.S. of breaching. You're going to see this back and forth until they get it all figured out. If you go to oilprice.com, there's a bunch of different places where you can see it. You can actually track all this. And again, I encourage you to do this. Like, look into these stories because they're going to write the headlines. And they do this. They write it very emotional. They write it in order to sort of sway you and everybody else. And if you want to know the truth, like I said today, check out the Strait of Hormuz tracker. You'll be able to get that picture. Check out the oil prices. Obviously, the markets, CNBC is another good place to track that. But you can get those apps on your phone too. That's if you really want to do, this behind the scenes digging. Not everybody does. I get it. But we'll try to do our best for you in the meantime. It's just to give you a little bit of an idea on how to do some of the digging behind the scenes. All right. We've got the latest. In fact, yesterday was NATO Day. The NATO Secretary General, Ruta, who's a Trump fan, was in D.C. and at the White House yesterday. In fact, I believe this is CNN, Jake Tapper, in Washington, D.C., I believe, doing an interview. And they try and they want to get him to talk bad about Trump, but he's not taking the bait.
Is the world safer today than it was before the war was started?
Absolutely. Because, and this is thanks to President Trump's leadership, degrading these capabilities is really very important for your and my safety here in the U.S., in Europe, in the Middle East.
Is the world safer?
Is it? Now, they expected him to say no. They wanted that sort of gotcha moment. But even the NATO Secretary General, who, like I said, he is a Trump supporter. He's a supporter. I mean, he's a fan. They have a good relationship. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. They have a good relationship. Not everybody does, but they do. They have a good relationship. And that should tell you everything you need to know. Especially I mean, after everything the president has had to say about NATO, that's interesting. There are the things that are set out in the open, and then there are the things that they have these conversations with each other about.
Islamabad, Pakistan, this is the situation. The Strait of Hormuz right now appears to be closed. Additionally, the atomic energy chief for Iran says that they will continue to enrich uranium in direct contradiction to what President Trump said yesterday. And just moments ago, Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, said the negotiations will be meaningless if the Israelis continue their operation against Hezbollah. Guys?
Yeah, Trey, the president also said in that same statement, according to Reuters, we will not abandon the Lebanese people. So, I mean, the deal is over before we even start.
Look, the Iranians are known for not being good faith negotiators, and this is the challenge for the Trump administration. We heard yesterday Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary at the White House, laying out the U.S. plan to send a top-tier delegation to Islamabad, led by the Vice President, J.D. Vance, with special envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, to try and get a deal done. The president, once again, is extending an olive branch to the Iranians, an off-ramp in this conflict, understanding that there are still more than 50,000 U.S. forces in the region that at a moment's notice could start firing again if ordered by the president. And once again, the Iranians do not appear to be taking this very seriously. There's a very clear agreement here, and an updated agreement, we are told by U.S. officials. The points that the Iranians were putting out over the past 2 days were described to me as propaganda. They're trying to spin the negotiations.
And you're listening to West Michigan
Yeah,
Live,
folks.
with our good friend Justin Barclay. The Glenn Beck program coming up at 10 on Wood Radio.
Mm-hmm. Oh, lots to cover yet still, folks, as we move full speed ahead into the fastest hour in radio. Yeah, the stories that you won't hear anywhere else, and particularly we're focused on the 2026 election. You know, I said this, and I'll say it over and over again, 2024. As important as it was for the nation, I believe it had an impact that we won't understand until we get years down the road and look at the history books and go back and see what we've avoided, right? It'll be more clear. But I think 2026 has that same impact here in Michigan, and maybe even greater. You talk about taking the state back, and of course, at a time I don't think it's ever been more critical. And there's so many different ways to look at that. But you've got big races. We've got the race for governor here. It's not just a midterm. As James Dixon likes to say, this is the final exam for us here in Michigan. We've got the big three, governor, we've got the attorney general, we got the secretary of state, all of those offices that need to be filled. Then we've got the chance to put a conservative back there and a Republican in the Senate to help President Trump get his agenda through. And then you've got the other races that, again, have massive, I think, impact on the state as well as your local races. But some of those big state races are the Supreme Court, again, on the ballot. Judge Michael Warren joins us right now, is running for the Michigan Supreme Court as we have the conversation. Judge, good morning. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Good morning. I'm really pleased to be on the show with you.
Fantastic. Let me ask you, and I'll just break this down, but maybe you can tell us in your words. As we just seen recently, Wisconsin had some big elections, Supreme Court. We've seen that in recent years in Michigan, why those races matter. But tell us in your words, why does the Michigan Supreme Court race, why is this so critical, and particularly in 2026?
Yeah, it is an absolutely critical race. And to emphasize it for your listeners, we have a Supreme Court that right now has 6 people that are justices who have been nominated by the Democrat Party, and 1 for person that had Justice Brian Czar, who is nominated by the Republican Party. And the Supreme Court, what I'm trying to do is bring balance back to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the final authority on what Michigan law means, both the Michigan Constitution and any statutory provisions that are enacted by the legislature, as well as any common law like negligence and fraud and those kinds of things. And being the final authority, you can't actually go to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Michigan Supreme Court determines what the Michigan Constitution means. And for many years, we had an extraordinarily exceptional Supreme Court, which was stocked with many originalists and constitutional conservatives, for the lack of a better term, rule of law justices, and now has swung completely the other way. So now it's a 6-1 court. So we really need to bring back balance to the Supreme Court.
What are some of the issues? And maybe you can't speak on like what will be, or maybe you can. I don't know what will be coming up in the years ahead, or could be. But some of the big ones in the past. I mean, as you just mentioned, there are some major decisions being made here, and when they get kicked up to the state Supreme Court. I mean, you're talking about make or break for the state of Michigan.
Well, the question is what's not going to be before the Supreme Court. So one example that will be is the interpretation of criminal law and criminal procedure. How victims are treated, how laws are interpreted, how the constitutional provisions about cruel and unusual punishment, for example, how no-fault law is interpreted, slip and fall accidents, elections law, all the ballot initiatives, all that stuff goes to the Michigan Supreme Court for a final review. And so it is tremendously important to, if we want a court that views the law as the lawmaker intended it, either the people when they adopted the Constitution or the legislature when they adopted the law, and to apply it as opposed to legislate from the bench, then we need conservative justices, rule of law justices on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And that's the perspective I'll bring. I have been I've been a circuit court judge in Oakland County for over 23 years. I've tried over 400 jury trials. I have more combined experience on the trial court than the entire Supreme Court put together. And that's not a knock against them, but there's the lack of actual trial experience is very concerning to many lawyers because we're in the trenches, so to speak, and to have the insight of a trial judge about how changes in the rules of evidence, procedure, administrative rules, all these things actually have a huge impact on how a trial goes forward and how cases are dispensed. And again, to have somebody that has that experience is extremely important, and somebody with the perspective of the judicial restraint and interpreting the law as the lawgiver intended is extraordinarily important.
Judge Michael Warren with us right now for Michigan Supreme Court as a Republican nominee, and we're talking about, you just mentioned it too, and I thought this is maybe something we'd spend a little bit more time on, but this idea, and we see a lot of this, particularly on the left, and this is this idea that there's a lot of legislating from the bench or judicial activism happening, and it is one of the things that I think is ruining not just the country, the state. We see this being quite a problem. Can you speak to that? The problem that we're seeing right now, and obviously the need to make sure that we elect someone who won't do that.
Absolutely. So, to me, this goes back to first principles. And I've literally just having a new book released that's called The Revolutionary Words That Forged America, The Definitive Guide to the Declaration of Independence. And I've written another book called America's Survival Guide, How to Stop America's Impending Suicide by Reclaiming Our Founding First Principles in History. And I raise those because if you're steeped in American history, you understand the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Then you understand the proper role of the courts. And the role of the court is to interpret the law as was intended by, the founding fathers or succeeding generations as the Constitution was amended, or our Constitution was ratified in 1963 in Michigan. What the voters thought when they voted to adopt the Constitution, and to avoid the personal predilections and desires that the particular justice or judge may have when they're viewing a case. And too often we have judges that think that they know what's better than what the founding fathers thought, or what the people of Michigan when they adopted a ballot initiative or adopted the Constitution. But if you go back to the principles of the Declaration of Independence, like I said in the book, The Revolutionary Words That Forged America, or an America's Survival Guide, you'll understand that that really violates the whole principle of what a judge is supposed to do. And a judge is not supposed to be a little mini legislature or a super legislator. A judge is supposed to follow the law, whether they like it or not. And I can tell you, there are many days when I follow the law that I think I would never have adopted this if I was a legislator. I think it might be an unwise policy decision, but I have to follow the law. And unfortunately, there are too many justices and judges in America today that see their role as very different, that they're going to fix things, they're going to override the legislature, override the Constitution, and impose what they think is a fair and just result, which is exactly the opposite of what a justice should do. Self-restraint is the most important thing for a judge or a justice.
We've got so many different areas that I think we could hit with you, but not enough time to quite do it all. But this, I think, is a good intro to tell people why this race matters so much. Maybe we can sit down with one another for a little more time in the future to go through some of these things. And
I'd love to do it. I think that would be a tremendous opportunity. I'd really appreciate that opportunity.
Absolutely. Judge Michael Warren and the race for the Michigan Supreme Court has been nominated, and of course, Republican convention. How was the convention? We just maybe get your commentary on that, and it does seem like it was a very productive year this year.
I think it was. I had a great time, and I'll tell you why. I had a table, and I had a constant flow of people coming to me, and there were two things going on. First is so many people were just excited about my campaign. I'm so blessed. I have so many grassroots supporters that have asked me to run for Supreme Court for a number of years, and I finally took the plunge. It was great. That was very gratifying. And I also had the Revolutionary Words That Forged America, the new book, and I had a lot of people buy it and just had fallen in love with it. And the old book, America's Survival Guide, a bunch of volunteers to sign up. And so I completely missed what was going on at the convention floor, other than I got to swear in the officers. And that was fun. And I cited Thomas Paine, "These are the times to try men's souls, or the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this time of crisis strengthen the service of his country." And I went through that and did a little mini story about George Washington crossing the Delaware and kind of giving a parallel about we have to, step up as well and be inspired to fight for our freedoms and liberties and equality and unalienable rights. And so that was well received. I had a lot of people come up to me after. But it seemed like there were a couple convention fights, as you would expect, but otherwise I thought it went very smoothly.
Yeah, Judge Michael Warren. By the way, comments in the looking at your website right now, comments in the chat say they love the bow tie. Just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
He's got the red, white, and blue.
JudgeMichaelWarren.com.
There you have it.
If you want to see the bow tie, it's a great bow tie. You're exactly right. JudgeMichaelWarren.com. You want to go visit that.
Where can they grab the book, too, if they want to, or check out either one of the books?
Yeah, Amazon.com. If they type in Judge Michael Warren, the Revolutionary Words That Forged America will show up. Or you can type in, America's Survival Guide. They're both available there. Republic Books is the publisher for the Revolutionary Words That Forged America, so they could also go to that website directly. Either would be great. It's actually being officially released on Tuesday, so it's fresh off the presses, and it's a real deep dive, goes through line by line of the Declaration of Independence, and concepts that are extraordinarily important that have really been forgotten, and some people disdain, like unalienable rights, limited government, the social compact. We have 28 grievances about why we declared independence from the greatest empire the world had ever seen, and most people are unaware of those. And they really have a huge impact on how we developed our Constitution. And so the book also shows the relationship between the Declaration and the Constitution. And really, nobody has done this for like 125 years to go through each line. So if you love America, it's the charter, and you can go read that book.
You got it, Judge Michael Warren. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
Amen. Amen. All right. Folks running to pick the books up right now on the chat. I'll need some new reads. Charlene says, "Yeah, there you go. Check it out." And by the way, we'll try and dive in a little bit deeper in the days ahead as those conversations continue to heat up. Speaking of conversations, the fastest hour in radio is flying by, but it happens each and every day. That's why we're so happy to be here with you today. And the folks that make it happen are the folks at the Good Feet store. Not only do they help make this program happen every day, but they help keep me on my toes so that we get to the stories that matter most, get you the news that you need to hear. And they'll keep you on your feet, by the way, at work or play. You know, I get these two little girls that are running around getting bigger every day, 5 and 3. And yes, they can be a handful and they can be so much fun. And I tell you, no matter what we're up to, like on a big trip, we just went that first trip to Florida the other day, we're running around chasing the Easter eggs, finding them. These girls are running a mile a minute. And I couldn't do it without the help from the Good Feet store. Look, that's why I've been telling you this entire time. Whether it's doing something you love or the work you love, right? You got to make sure you can do it in comfort and with confidence at the Good Feet store. Find out what I've been ranting and raving about for so long. Step in today on 28th Street, right in front of Costco, or in Portage on Westage in front of Kohl's at the Good Feet store.
Breaking down the story. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Thursday, April 9th. I'm Robin Hoffman. It's a Midwesterner.news original story. Michigan Senator Democrat Alyssa Slotkin says she's open to a 2028 run for president. She says, "I guess I wouldn't say no forever," and goes on to say, "I'm interested in being a part of the next generation who's going to rehab the Democrat brand." A Michigan Republican about to spend big bucks here in our state, gubernatorial candidate Perry Johnson is already looking ahead to the general election with an announcement exclusively shared with the Midwesterner. Johnson, who's rapidly caught up to frontrunner John James, is going to spend $4.7 million in media in the 3 weeks following the August primary. And Michigan Senate candidate Democrat Abdul El Sayed doubling down on defending Hassan Piker, who has made many anti-Semitic remarks, the two spending time this week rallying progressives at Michigan State and at the University of Michigan. For these stories and more, visit the Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
Are you tired of exposing?
All right, folks, full speed ahead on the fastest hour in radio. Let's see. Had a couple of things that I wanted to share with you that we were just waiting to get through. Oh, did you? I got to save that for later. That one's for the after show. That one is for the after show. Here's El Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele saying, we ought to impeach, speaking of judges, corrupt judges. And I think I saw somebody mention that in the chat. Right after the killer of Irina Zarutska was found too incompetent to stand trial, this is what he says, and he's seen this in his country and why they went through what they went through, and folks, we're right on the precipice.
What about the human right of a woman not to be raped? I mean, what about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park? And what about the human right to live, or the human right to walk in the street, right? But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers. What about the human right of a woman not to be raped?
This is interesting. This is interesting because we see right now is this guy. I don't know. The question is, will he ever face justice? Now there is a federal charge. This monster is facing. We've got video. Actually, we had to say this today when I said he was. How did we word it? Accused of fatally stabbing the 23. We have the video. We've seen it with our own eyes. Now again, you got to be allegedly. You have to say all these things, but we've seen the video. It's like Don Lemon. We were talking about judges the other day, and people were wondering where are the arrests. Well, what happens if you arrest somebody and the judge says, "No, we're not going to do that." I think we had another. Yeah, there was another Boasberg meme that we posted yesterday too over on Facebook. This is the latest. Boasberg just ruled the Strait of Hormuz be closed again due to its reopening not having been pre-approved by the judiciary. Of course he did. Of course. Now, it's a joke. He didn't really say that, but hang on, folks. Back on the air with you. Stand by.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, Commander of U.S. Central Command. Less than 6 weeks ago, more than 50,000 of America's sons and daughters in uniform launched Operation Epic Fury and embarked on a mission of profound consequence. We set out to dismantle the Iranian regime's ability to project power beyond its own borders, and we clearly accomplished this task. Iran has suffered a generational military defeat. The United States and Israel systematically destroyed Iran's ability to conduct large-scale military operations for years to come. Iran's conventional military capability, built over 40 years at the cost of billions of dollars, has been eliminated. As the President expressed earlier this week, our core strategic military objectives have been achieved after destroying Iran's missile, drone, and naval capabilities and their defensive industrial base.
This is just the latest statement. In fact, one that we just shared over on X too, but this is from CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper laying it out straight. By the way, this is a statement for us. It's for the troops so that they can know what happened. In less than 40 days, he says, you destroyed the military that Iran built over 40 years. Your courage, grit, and ingenuity have served America extremely well. Finally, I want to close by remembering and honoring our 13 fallen warriors who made the ultimate sacrifice during Operation Epic Fury. He says, our men and women in uniform represent the best of America. I just could not be prouder and more humble to serve with them, and I know the American people share the same pride. So to our warriors, stay sharp, remain resolved, and continue to take care of one another. Again, that's CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, and the latest on that message to America. All right, let's check again if we can the latest on a stock market. We're only down 54 points now. So they started the day down 200. Now they're down just 54 point. S&P 500 slips, oil rises, traders keep an eye. I think that's what this is. I think this is just to keep an eye on it scenario. Oil prices around $100 a barrel right now. And again, it's a wait and see scenario, and it's keep your powder dry all day long. What about the straits? What are we looking at? The ship traffic there. Anything else new that it looks like we got some traffic through the straits right now, or the Strait of Hormuz. The red ships looks like, and there's some green in there too. So we'll have to dig in and see what this looks like, but that might be why the market's responding as well. Again, as I mentioned this earlier to open the show, do your due diligence, dig in, look at the sources. If you can, go right to the source to get that information. In the meantime, we'll do our best to keep you updated as well. CNBC has those latest. And by the way, if you want to retire today, tomorrow, 10, 20 years down the road, you can't constantly be looking at those numbers trying to figure out where you are. Folks at Talon Wealth are going to help you sleep well at night and feel like you're not going to lose your lunch on that roller coaster ride, right? GuardingYourNestEgg.com. Call Mike Lester and the team today at 616-661-1000. Find out how they can help you, no matter when you want to retire. I mean, get to where you want to go. GuardingYourNestEgg.com. All right, that's it for today. The Glenn Beck program coming up next. The fastest hour on radio flying right by. Our after show launching the iHeartRadio app or wherever you download your podcasts. Make it a great one. God bless. right. Hang on, folks. I want to make sure you guys hear the prayer because it didn't play for you. Stand by.
Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. God is the kingdom, the power, and glory forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
All right. Let's get this show on the road. Why don't we? Get ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay. Welcome to the after show, folks. The show after the show. It's never a dull moment, never enough time to get to all the news. But we do our best. That's why we kicked off this after show. We listen to the people, give the people what they want. I know that's crazy. Crazy talk nowadays. But that's where we are. So thank you for being a part of it. And I forgot to mention throughout the entirety of the main show today, but please share if you care. Sharing is caring. And somebody who shares today is going to win something cool. We put you in the running again, just like we've been doing for the last several days. And for something cool inside the Justin store. We've got hats, we've got t-shirts. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think we do have one Gulf of America hat in there. So we had to retire the tinfoil hat. We may be bringing that back soon. We've had some conversations about that. We're looking at the America 250 gear as well right now. You can go buy stuff all day long inside the store, justinbarclay.com/store. But in the meantime, I'd like to just give you something. So if you share right now, you could be in the running to win something cool inside that store. Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, Getter, Locals, YouTube, all those different places. Share if you care. And by the way, it will help us break the algorithm, which is something we're watching on Facebook right now, particularly. We just never know. You just never kind of know how that's all going to work out. And Facebook some days loves us, some days not so much. So I don't know. It's like, Facebook, what are you doing? It's a love-hate relationship that we have, unfortunately, with Facebook. I know. I mean, look, you can't. It's like technology, and it's technology in general, right? Technology in general. It's like you love it or leave it. You just can't. You can't live with it. Can't live without it, and that's kind of how Facebook does us dirty from time to time. But God bless them. If you're on Facebook, make sure you're following us as well. That'll help. That'll help get the word out. All right, Donald Trump. NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice? President Donald J. Trump, he signs it. President DJT. There was NATO Day yesterday. NATO Day at the White House. President Trump not sugarcoating anything about NATO. Why all of this is interesting, why all of it matters. In fact, maybe we'll take you behind the curtain and show you some interesting things today. But Trump lashing out, as you remember, at NATO when he said just that. They weren't there.
Police will be gone, and then they're coming for Europe. And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO. Very. I think that NATO, it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear. Never disappear in my mind. They're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, But they said it loud and clear at the beginning. When I spoke to UK of all, I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have 2 old broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them. We have, in terms of technology, we had one day 101 missiles going at 2,700 miles an hour aimed at the Abraham Lincoln. 101 missiles. Out of 101 missiles, 101 missiles were shot down.
Incredible. And yeah, so that's the latest on NATO. Obviously, Ruta there yesterday. Now, he says that he likes Ruta. He likes the guy who runs NATO. Again, NATO Secretary General. I think we played some of this for you earlier from Jake Tapper's interview. They tried to get him in a kind of like a gotcha moment. Here he is. Hang on. Let me readdress this for you. All right. Here he is. I want to pull it up so you can fully see it.
Into the North Korea moment, where you talk so long that at a certain moment, it's beyond the point where you can still get this done, because then they would get their hands on the nuclear capacity. Mm-hmm. And that is basically a big risk for Europe. It is existential for Israel. It is existential for the Middle East. So the whole world is safer by this president degrading those capabilities.
But there are a lot
and
of
this is by many in Europe acknowledged, and they understand that continuing talking to get this done would have brought us potentially past that moment where we can still deal with it.
So you talked about the statement of NATO allied countries about the Strait of Hormuz, about trying to figure out a way forward. Here is the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, when asked about the joint statement from the NATO governments about the Strait of Hormuz. Here's what she had to say.
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed.
Do you agree that NATO countries, some of them were tested and failed?
Some of them, yes, but a large majority of European countries, and that's what we discussed today, have done what they promised before in a case like this, because they know that when it comes to NATO, it's there to protect the United States. Because the US needs a secure Atlantic and a secure Arctic and a secure Europe to stay safe here, the US mainland. But it is also there to make sure that, of course, Europe is safe, and to be this platform of power projection for the United States.
Yeah, it is a question. Why are we still in NATO? They don't seem to pay their bills, right? They don't seem to pay their. So does he want to get out of it altogether, or does he want them to pay their fair share? Which again, that's the kind of language we've heard for quite some time now, right? Pay their fair share. What does he want to happen? That's a very good question. Where are we going? What is at stake? What's up ahead? And I think those are all fair. Again, he was asked earlier, what do you think? Is the world safer now, than it was since we've dealt with Iran?
And then you cannot negotiate any longer, and they have that power.
Is the world safer today than it was before the war was started?
Absolutely, because, and this is thanks to President Trump's leadership, degrading these capabilities is really very important for your and my safety here in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's obvious. That's obvious. Another gotcha question. They tried to get him to push back. The guy is not going to talk bad about Trump since he's here in D.C. They tend to have a good relationship together anyway. And again, this is something I think we're going to watch in the coming days, how these old alliances move forward. What happens? Do they actually keep their word? Do they live up to what they promised to do all these years, or not? And it's important, because there will come a day, there will come a time, and it may have just happened where we needed them and we saw where they stood, and that's what Caroline Leavitt said with the test, they failed.
The United States was in full play over the last 6 weeks. And yes, it is true, not all European nations lived up to those commitments, and I totally understand that he is disappointed about it.
Yeah, that's the key. Even the NATO Secretary General gets it.
Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not worried at all, 10 being terrified. Where do you leave Washington thinking President Trump, your opinion of President Trump wanting to leave NATO? Are you 1, I'm not worried at all, 10, I'm really worried Trump is going to pull out of NATO?
Well, I'm not going to get into that answering that question.
I'm just trying to get an answer.
No, I understand it. But what I felt today, this was a meeting between friends. because we like each other. I really admire his leadership, and he knows what he did in The Hague last year at the NATO summit has been crucial. And NATO allies are with him when it comes to the aims of taking out, as I said, degrading the nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity of the Iranians.
Yeah, but
the United States was in full play.
So again, where are we headed? Where's all that going? Will we see a shift in the power structure there altogether? There's somebody from Michigan that's got a really interesting. I haven't fully vetted it. I haven't gone into the, into the deep dive on this. But I will tell you, I find some of the stuff that I've watched to be kind of interesting. And I don't know if you know who this is yet. I don't know if you've been exposed to any of this, but a friend of mine actually shared it with me. And one of the things that he says, if you want to understand what Donald Trump is really doing, you'll walk down this path, according to these folks, and you'll see every move at a different, you'll see it from a different perspective, I guess is the best way to put it. These are folks, they're on YouTube, they're on Facebook, they're on TikTok, but let me pause this so you can watch this. How do I make? Can I make this big screen? Oh yes, I can. Full screen. All right. That's what I'll do. All right, stand by. I want you to see this full screen. This is somebody called Susan Kokinda. And she'll lay out here a little bit of what she believes Trump is doing behind the scenes, and it may make some of the moves that you watch him pull off. It may make it more clear for you. I'm not sold 100%, but I'm walking this through. I'm looking at what they have to say, and her Prometheus group is what it's called. Take a listen and see what you have to say.
To this. A big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Big money will be made. Iran can start the reconstruction process just like we are experiencing in the U.S. This could be the golden age of the Middle East.
Iran chose civilization last night for the first time in 47 years. A nation that the empire condemned to a dark age has a chance to walk off that chessboard. Donald Trump gambled on civilization and won the first round. Now, here's what the war party wants you to think. They want you to think that Trump just let Iran off the hook. Netanyahu warned Trump against this ceasefire. Lindsey Graham is calling for congressional hearings. Well, they're all wrong, and the fact that they're not happy is the proof. I'm Susan Kokinda. I've tracked the imperial great game in the Mideast for decades. What you're watching in Iran isn't another chapter in their post-war system. It's a direct challenge to it. And if you want to follow this civilizational fight, then hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons so we can stay in touch and keep growing. Here's what we're covering today. What President Trump actually did in Iran and what the war party's reaction tells you about it. What Vice President J.D. Vance said about civilization in Budapest and why he contrasted it to the nihilists. And President Trump's call to the astronauts about taking civilization to the stars. Now, here's what the president posted on Truth Social about the ceasefire announcement. I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. We have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. And then Trump did something extraordinary. He posted Iran's own official statement confirming the ceasefire and the opening of the Strait. He amplified Tehran's acceptance because this isn't an enemy being crushed. It's a country beginning to choose civilization. Now, to understand why that matters, you have to understand what the Mideast has actually been in the imperial great game.
Now, I don't want to interrupt her too much because she's going to get into some of the meat here of about why you're seeing some of the things you've seen.
And particularly if you look at Venezuela, what may be happening with Cuba, particularly, and then Iran plays into the same sort of picture here, and why this is important, where she's going with this. But she's right. President Trump does not want to obliterate the enemy. He wants to do something completely separate and completely different. He also wants to pull out or away from the U.S. being bogged down and involved in any of this. And if you hear her explanation for it, I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes more sense than some of the panicking stuff that I've seen play out. And like they've never read his book, like they don't know who the guy is, like they never covered him for the last 10, 20 years. It's wild. Again, this is Susan Kokenda, Prometheus. I think it's called Prometheus Organization, Prometheus Group. I'll get the full name for you, but check this out.
The empire built it as a cockpit of war. They created the Muslim Brotherhood, the mother of Islamic extremism. They simultaneously cultivated revisionist Zionism. And then they played Arab against Jew, Sunni against Shia, nation against nation. Iran was drawn into this architecture in 1953, when British and American intelligence overthrew Mossadegh. His crime? He wanted to use Iran's oil to develop the country. By the 1970s, the Shah had launched an aggressive program of industrialization and modernization. So the empire reached for its oldest tool, religious extremism. The mullahs replaced the Shah, theocracy replaced development, and civilization reversed into dark age. Donald Trump looked at that 47-year-old trap and made a bet, not on Iran's regime, on Iran's people. He gambled on civilization. Now, let's look at who's not happy. Netanyahu warned Trump against the ceasefire before it happened. Lindsey Graham invoked the Libya model. That's not a model, it's a warning. Surrender your weapons or uranium and see what happens. In Libya, 8 years after they surrendered their weapons, a NATO-backed mob murdered Gaddafi. That's what the war party is offering Iran. Trump is offering something entirely different. But Graham made sure to get in the last word this morning. He posted, "I prefer diplomacy if it leads to the right outcome regarding the Iranian terrorist regime. That's why congressional review process like the one the Senate followed to test the Obama-Iranian deal is a sound way forward." Did you catch that? A congressional review process in the middle of live, delicate negotiations. Negotiations which, by the way, don't directly involve Israel. But President Trump is calling the shots, not Lindsey Graham. And he's offering something else entirely. But how did he get here? Not through NATO, not through the British, not through European institutions that have managed the Mideast misery for a century. Pakistan mediated the ceasefire with the involvement of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar were in the room for the Gaza negotiations. These are sovereign Muslim and Arab nations that the empire spent a century playing off against each other, now acting as partners for peace. And Trump's Board of Peace was built exactly for this. Now, let's not forget who's not at the table. The Strait of Hormuz has been for generations financially managed through Lloyd's of London. Trump's deal to reopen it, brokered by Pakistan and including Iran, cuts the British financial architecture out of the solution entirely. The empire that built this cockpit of war is not present as it gets dismantled. That's what a civilizational gamble looks like when it starts to pay off. Not NATO, not London, but sovereign nations choosing to build instead of destroy.
I'm going to reach out. We'll have a conversation, I'm sure, in the days ahead at some point with Susan, because I think she puts a lot of thought. They put a lot of work and effort in. You can tell into what she's saying and what they do. And I will tell you, I think it has she has a better understanding of what's happening, what's going on, than most folks. Again, a lot of us are just we're watching some of these things that are happening. We think we know, and we're trying to put the pieces together and kind of explain that to you. One thing is for sure, like I said, the videos are very well done. She's very knowledgeable. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do a little bit deeper dive. I can't just tell you oh, I sign on, I vouch. I endorse this, that, or the other person. Well, most people won't even share, like, podcasters or streamers probably won't even share like other streamers or podcasts with because they think they're in competition. I disagree. I think we're working together to keep people informed. And I don't think we all have all the answers. I think each of us has a little piece here and a little piece there, and we come together and we get a better picture. It's a sort of like a mosaic or a puzzle to see like what everything looks like. So, Charlene, that's a really interesting thought. That's a really interesting thought. So anyway, in the days ahead, we'll try and see if we can sit down with her and get a better picture. But what is for sure is that what we are watching, President Trump has thought about for decades. What we are watching, the moves that he is making, is part of something that has been in motion for quite some time now. And there are lots of people that don't want to see it happen. There are lots of people that don't want to see it come into play. And I think he is reshaping. I got to be careful about how I word this because it's an explosive way to put it, but he is reshaping the way things work in the world. And the way folks have wanted it to work has been Promethean action. That's it. Yeah. Susan Kokinda Promethean action, by the way, if you want to go follow her. I'll put it in the stack today too. But he's reshaping, giving the power back to the people, reshaping the way things have worked. All right. So I wanted to play that for you so that you could see it, so you could understand it, so you had a little bit better grasp on some of the things that we're watching and the way things are playing out and why we're seeing what we see play out right in front of our very eyes. By the way, here's a warning, folks. What the left wants to do when they get back in power, from poster over on X, and wokeness. In fact, this is it. And this is again why, if you really want to know why these elections matter so much, why it'll matter in 2026, not just here locally, obviously with our state elections, but also our congressional elections, because we've got to make sure that Trump has the ability to fight back, to do the things that he needs to do, to do the things that he needs to do to finish this off. Part of what Susan's talking about. But here's what the left wants to do to you and me. Crack down on social media speech, mass amnesty, 30 million or more new voters, end the filibuster, Pax SCOTUS, nationwide mail-in and no voter ID for those ballots. 52 states, D.C. and Puerto Rico, will become states. And the corruption, as you can imagine. Abolish the electoral college, MAGA arrests, and debanking. Why? Why do we know this? It's because they were in the middle of doing it before they were stopped the first time. And why do I share it with you? Because I think it's so important for us to really understand how far we've come, how bad things were. Michigan Democrat Party is going to have Kamala Harris here to speak, give a big keynote for their big convention coming up. I think it's this weekend. And I don't think enough people, particularly on the right, are really aware or remember how bad it was. There's a lot of criticism for President Trump right now, and not a lot of leeway. They don't give him a lot of grace and understand, look at all the things that we were facing. Look at what we were up against. Look at what we escaped and how close we are and doomed to go back there. And unfortunately, if we don't follow through in those very important things that need to take place. I'll give you another podcast you can listen to, by the way. I'm giving all kinds of podcast recommendations today. Well, here's a new one from RFK Jr. He's launching a podcast. Maybe the first time a cabinet member has had a podcast. He's launching a podcast to expose the lies that have made Americans sick. And CNN, as you can imagine, did the read up on that, and I'm sure it was fantastic. CNN. Speaking of RFK Jr., Bill Maher and Cheryl Hines sharing the truth about Trump. And Cheryl Hines is RFK Jr.'s wife. Now, I met him and she was with him, and I probably should have said hi to her too, because I did. Look, I understand. I get it. Some of these Hollywood people, like Larry David, complete leftist, I'm sure, is not a fan, not a fan of Trump. But I loved her on that show. I thought she was fantastic. It's been a long time since I've seen. I don't know if they're still making it. I really don't. But I don't watch much TV anymore these days. But I loved her on the show, so I didn't get to talk to her. But she kind of had those same thoughts about him. Seemed like Bill Maher until she met him. She
was just asking me about when I met him, what surprised me the most. And I said, I was surprised that he really likes to listen to people. He's very curious in what
they
you have to say.
They hated when I said that. Again, because I'm just telling you what happened. What, should I lie?
I guess so. I guess
right.
That's
He
what
kicked me in the balls under the table. And then
like I knew he would.
He threw the spaghetti against the wall when I raised the subject of tariffs. No. No.
Yeah, he listened.
I think he actually wants more people around him for a stimulating conversation.
Yeah.
I was very surprised at, and mentioned it again, they hated me for it, that as opposed to so many important people I've met who, when you talk to them, you don't feel like they're really listening. They're kind of like, you know what I mean? And then when they answer you, it doesn't quite track, you know?
They're just waiting for their turn to talk.
Yes, or they're just on a different level. I mean, these are show people, too. I've had that. But I didn't get that with him at all.
No.
I got a guy who looked in my eye, was listening to what I said, waited until I finished, even when it was contradictory, when it was he never got blustery or mad about it. You know, he said some things that I don't agree with and some things that I think are just, you know, plainly not right, like, you know, third term, I think you could do it. I'm having people look into it. No, you can't do it. and you can have people look into it from now until the end of time. It's like 12 words in the Constitution. You can't do it. But he didn't get mad.
Right.
And then I also made the point that, you know, I went home that night and I was getting into bed in 60 Minutes. I taped it. And there he is on 60 Minutes and he's like ranting and raving. I'm like, who's this guy? This is not the guy I met.
Yeah.
And so I'm just the reporter here. I'm just telling you.
This was my experience.
If this is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, find a way to work with Dr. Jekyll.
They don't want to hear that. They don't even want you to think that he's a human being. That's part of the problem. That's part of what that's what the dehumanizing effort is meant to do, just that, to make people think that this person is a monster and there's just nothing you can ever have in common, ever have a good conversation. There's nothing you can do it. Thought that was interesting though. Great little, and you see the people like that kind of moving Bill Maher, you know, moving to the right side of the aisle in some ways, but just truth, logic, and common sense. He's kind of always been somebody open for that. Hey, today, thank you for sharing. Sharing is caring. Share if you care. We always appreciate it. Rhonda helped share the show today over on Facebook. Rhonda Knebel? I don't know how to say your name, Rhonda, but you won, and we are so grateful that you shared the show today. You help us break the algorithm. You help us get through and reach folks, cut through the noise. By the way, I'll send you a message, and you can go pick something out inside the store. Each day, we do that with people that help us get the word out about all these great things that are going on in the news. JustinBarclay.com/store if you want to get some gear, some cool shirts inside the store. Healthwithjustin.com. We are on our way. My wife and I down like 30 pounds or more. Each of us feeling better and better every day. It's not just the clothes are fitting better. It's not just that, you know, yes, we can actually go shopping in our closets for old clothes that we used to wear. And my wife is, you know, going to shop for some new clothes. And I am too. And I love it. You know what? It's you've earned it. You feel a little bit better. You got to be careful because I want to lose a little bit more. You know, actually a lot more. And, you know, I don't want to go jumping too early. But it really is one of those things that it's a great byproduct of the weight loss and getting healthy again from the inside out. Want to know more? Healthwithjustin.com. Maha, Missy, and the team will walk you through it. You call them today at 269-964-4044. Or you go to healthwithjustin.com and see what we're up to. Schedule your call with Missy. Get all the details about how they're going to make you healthy from the inside out. You'll be on your fat burn, and you will be feeling better than ever, dropping inches, pant sizes, and yes, you'll have all the energy in the world. You'll feel so much younger, like 10 years younger again, and the aches and pains will be gone. A lot of folks actually come off meds that they've been on for years because they're getting healthy from the inside out again. Healthwithjustin.com. Check out all of the great before and after photos and more when you go to healthwithjustin.com. But do it today and tell Maha, Missy, and the team thank you for helping support this program each and every day. Speaking of supporting, mypillow.com and mystore.com/Justin. MyPillow.Justin, the Easter sale still underway. Mike Lindell and the team put some great gear and things together for you. Look, here's what I say. If you need sheets, if you need bedding, if you need anything in the home, start with Mike first, because you can get great deals on towels and sheets and the classic My Pillows, even mattresses and mattress pads. They even have energy drinks that they're doing now. It's just incredible. All the great deals and sales. I love the My Coffee. MyPillow.com/Justin, mystore.com/Justin. Do it today and help support the program. We appreciate it every time you do. God bless.
I'm Dr. Kirk Elliott, founder of Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. After being in the industry for more than a decade, I knew there was a better way. It's an exciting time to invest in gold and silver with the most significant bull market I've ever seen. But please don't overpay for your stuff. At KEPM, we focus on low-cost bullion only, and we don't charge a commission when you sell. We would love to connect with you, so call our office at 720-605-3900
or go to goldwithjustin.com today.